Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So every year around American Thanksgiving time, because I'm Canadian, so our Thanksgiving's in October, but I usually do this around American Thanksgiving time, and I usually talk about books that I'm thankful for that I read this year, whether it could be like a book I have a good memory with, or just I read at the perfect time. I think we can always appreciate a good book when we read it. So these are the books so far that I am thankful for that I read in 2023. So without further ado, let's get started. First up, I have the Jade City Trilogy by Fonda. I read the last two books in 2023, and it was one that I marathoned, and I really love this series. It is very definitely unique, and I think it does a really good job at showcasing this family drama of saga of 40 years worth of following them. So I think this does a really good job showcasing that. I will say the first book was a little bit hard to get into just because you're kind of thrown into it and you kind of have to figure out the magic system and the political system. But I'm really happy that I read it and I enjoyed it, and it was me kind of stepping outside my comfort zone. So I'm very happy with that. So yeah, definitely I'm very happy that I not only finished this series, but it had a really great payoff. Next up, I have the Folk of the Air Trilogy by Holly Black, and especially the beginning of the year, everything was very, very stressful in terms of writing my dissertation, preparing for defend, and the whole stress of it all. And so this was, I think I wanted something a little bit kind of lighter, a little bit easier to read, nothing too dense. And so I picked up this series on a whim, and I loved it. I marathoned through it. I was obsessed. I had 3 brain cells working at the end of my dissertation because I was so burnt out, but I had 3 of those brain cells dedicated to this trilogy. I was invested. I even read the kind of spin-off book as well, and I'm excited for the new one. But this, I would say, is kind of the book that, or the series that really got me through the key stress of my dissertation and just having to go through all of that. So I am very much happy that I read this series and decided to pick it up despite kind of the mixed reviews that I got. But yeah, this definitely became one of my favorite fantasy trilogies of all time. It was just a lot of fun, and I loved immersing myself in the world. And I think definitely within a couple years, when I kind of don't remember a lot of the plot, I definitely will reread this one. So I'm happy that I found a new favorite series. Next up, I have Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, and this is a book that I read kind of disjointedly. I had the ebook from the library, and it I had to return it when I was halfway through. So I read part of it when we were taking the train up to Montreal before I got engaged, and then I read it after we came back from Montreal when I was flying from my area to Vail for a conference, and it was just a lot of traveling. But this book really stood out to me in terms of just the humor. I like how it tackled a lot of the sexism that not only took place in the 1950s, but also within a STEM-related field. And being a PhD in biomedical engineering, I can really kind of relate to a lot of the things that Elizabeth had to go through being a kind of woman in a male-dominated field. And in addition to kind of tackling all the sexism within the workplace, I feel like this book does a really good job at kind of showcasing grief and how grief is is kind of very all-consuming process, and how do we overcome that, but does so in a way that adds in a lot of humor. And I do really love the TV show. Me and my fiance have been watching that one as well, and I think it's a really great adaptation. So yeah, this book was a little bit dark, but I really enjoyed kind of the lightness of it, and I literally was sobbing on the plane reading this. So it was a great read, and definitely one that has really stuck with me. Next up, I have The Lost Girls of Willowbrook by Marie Wiseman, and this is the book that got me out of my summer reading slump. So basically, because I was traveling so much for conferences and presenting my research, I wasn't just did not want to read. I think between June and July, I read maybe 3 or 4 books collectively over those 2 months. So I didn't do a lot of reading, and this book in particular really got me back into reading and kind of seeing it as a fun thing to do, as opposed to over the summer it really felt like a task. And it really helped me kind of get back into that reading routine. So I definitely really love this book. It was a little bit, took me by surprise, I will say in particular. I've read some of her other historical fiction, so I was expecting it to be something similar, but this one I would say is almost kind of like mixed with a thriller aspect. And it was really, really intense. And I had to read it in short doses because it like created such a visceral response for me. But that's how you know when a book is good. But I was still wanting to read it, even though it was like a very stressful read for me personally. So that's how you know it is a good book. So definitely this book, like I said, got me really back into reading after the very bad summer slump. And finally, I have The Once and Future Witches by Alix E. Harrow. This is a book that I read recently and I loved it. It's definitely probably one of my favorite books that I've read this year, and it is quite a chonker. It is over 500 pages and I like marathoned through it within like a few days. Like I was just dead set on being like, okay, I'm gonna finish it this weekend. I want to finish it before Halloween. And I think I read like 350 pages in one day, and I'm kind of a slow reader, so I was very proud about that. But basically this follows three sisters who are witches that live in the late 1800s, and around this time, this is when there's kind of the like witch burnings are still kind of like a thing, in addition to the kind of women's suffragettes movement is kind of coinciding with this, and it kind of goes off from there. But this book was just really fun. It was like a very well written historical fantasy, and I just was really invested in sisterhood and like the themes of having strong female friendships and integrating kind of the feminist movement with this time period. So like I said, I really liked it. It was just really fun to read. And like I said, it's kind of, especially kind of in this later half of the year, I feel like I'm really back into kind of enjoying reading and getting invested with everything. So like I said, I'm very kind of, you know, happy to be really like find the love in reading again. So a lot of these books have helped kind of inspire that, like rekindle that love that I have for reading. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite kind of books are, or books that you're thankful for this year, and all of that stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.